the Young Turks, a Democratic presidential hopeful.
Why is he running for president?
Oh,
You know.
I don't know, dude. He's a wacky guy. I feel like he's just trying to get money to like cobble together donation funds and to get people to buy his book and stuff. I've heard the TYT network isn't doing that hot at the moment, like monetarily. I don't know, man. He's being real wacky. I met him in DC like a month ago. He did not look very happy to see me.
And that's Cenk Uygur. Cenk, great to have you on the program. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I've been following your tweets with interest this week. You've been getting increasingly angry, I think it'd be fair to say. You said, I'm now enormously frustrated by US and Israeli governments.
You know, he tried to run for what, Senate or something, and he couldn't even win a primary or anything.
There was a special election in California for a House rep seat, and he did quite poorly.
Oh, that's what it was.
That was like, that for me, it was that, and it was the Joshua for Congress guy in Washington that were like the two big examples of how internet clout does not a candidacy win. You know, it does not translate.
I'll give you two more examples, but it's in another country. It was Dankula and Sargon running over in the UK.
Oh no!
It's like being popular online actually makes you a worse candidate somehow.
Marek acts in Gaza. I will not be shy in sharing that opinion on Piers Morgan's show today. Why are you so frustrated?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I didn't expect the framing that you put on this segment, and it's framing like that. That's disgusting. So I don't see what this has anything to do with anti-Semitism. I formed Young Turks and TYT with two Jewish friends who are some.
I feel like the anger that he has is played up a lot. They had a documentary that they funded themselves. It was called like Mad as Hell. That was the title of it. So I think he wants to kind of have that persona as like a tough guy who's mad all the time. You saw how he was acting when Alex Jones broke into their set and he was like, "We talk about Saudi Arabia all the time."
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
God damn.
Friends growing up. We've known each other and been brothers for over 40 years now. So
40.
I think what Hamas did is disgusting. I cry for those Israeli innocent civilians. But do I see you guys crying for Palestinians? I mean, Chris Christie was just on here treating it like it's no big deal because what, Palestinian lives don't matter? I think the real bigotry here is saying that Palestinians, we can kill 3 times as many of them already. And this is the appetizer. Netanyahu and his barbaric government have not even started the entree of murder and death and mayhem they're about to do. And that's somehow okay, killing 3 times.
Is it wrong that every time I hear Netanyahu, I literally think of Net and Yuhu? Like how that stuck in my brain forever. You know, remember Kanye when he had the net in the bottle of Yoo-hoo?
Oh, Christ. Yeah. No, okay. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
It is really cool right now how like half of all journalists in the Western world, their job right now is to like look you directly in the eye and say, so you oppose genocide. Can you answer to this horrendous anti-Semitism you've just expressed? You know, and that's just the entire discourse. I'm reminded of the Palestinian representative from the Palestinian Authority rep who was doing interviews in BBC. He was doing like 5 a day, man. He was like racing between studios, and he found that some members of his family had been killed in Israeli airstrike. And one of the BBC interviewers opened with, "Hey, just heard that some of your family members died. That sucks. Hey, do you condemn Hamas?" Like, not even an exaggeration. Not even a little bit of an exaggeration. Like, holy shit. And that's just all journalists right now. That's what you go to journalism school for. It's how to disingenuously weaponize anti-Semitism to cover up for war crimes.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful. That's a powerful move there. Like, hey, yeah, sorry about your family. Do you condemn
as many Palestinian civilians, let alone the occupation, which is bigotry by definition. We say that everyone in the world can defend themselves, can have their own state, can have sovereignty, except the Palestinians. And the reasoning behind that is the Palestinians are what? They're what? The idea is that they are savages and that Muslims are too violent and cannot control themselves, so they must be occupied for 56 brutal, disgusting years. So I've had enough of the bigotry against Muslims and Palestinians, and I need you to speak out against that instead of covering every outrageous, atrocious action of the right-wing government of Israel and going, oh, it's anti-Semitism. No, and there is global anti-Semitism. There's anti-Semitism here in this country. 2 synagogues were shot up, Pittsburgh and in Southern California. We fight against that all the time. But then whenever Israel is criticized, people go, oh no, it's anti-Semitism. No, there's real anti-Semitism. Instead of attacking that, all you guys ever do is hide behind the veil of anti-Semitism. Do you know why Palestinians might not like Israelis? Because they've been oppressed for 56 straight years.
This is Cenk's greatest strength as a commenter and as an interviewer. It's that he never shuts the up, and he's very loud. It's actually incredibly useful. He's like a truck, like beep beep. He just like rams straight through the conversation. It's a very powerful rhetorical tactic, especially when your opponent, Piers Morgan in this case, is a giant cuck, like Piers Morgan is. So it's especially effective when you're fighting a wet noodle of a person, finger quotes around person, like Piers, because all he can really do is sort of ineptly go like, excuse me, so it's my turn. It's Mum said you have to let me speak as well, and Cenk just doesn't give a fuck, and it's very respectable.
I hear you, and let me respond. I'm not you guys. I don't think I fit into any neat fit on this issue at all.
Piers Morgan.
B, I've
Piers Morgan, they, them.
Yeah, Piers Morgan with the guys is not a gender-neutral addresser, by the way.
More fairly than most people. I've had many pro-Palestinian voices I've given a huge platform for. They've been getting enormous audiences from Bassem Youssef to others, and I've done that quite deliberately because I think these voices are important to be heard, including yours. I certainly wasn't accusing you, by the way, or your organization of anti-Semitism. I just think I have found it, as somebody who's always identified as liberal myself, I've found it very dispiriting to see people who call themselves liberals whose instant response, it seemed to me, to one of the worst terror attacks we've ever seen was to immediately side with the place where these attacks have been launched from. Now, I don't tar all Palestinians with the brush of being Hamas at all. And in fact, the sooner Hamas are out of there, the better for the Palestinian people and the world. But I just think the only human response you can have is, as you did, by the way, to your credit, is it was disgusting what happened on October the 7th. Now, the question then becomes, what is a proportionate response by Israel? Not just the terror attacks of October the 7th.
Can I just say how, like, so there are a lot of lefties whose immediate response to the attack from Hamas was to do this like, oh, Hamas are like revolutionary, oh, they're fighting back against their oppressor, which is dumb because Hamas is like an Islamic jihadist org that doesn't give a fuck, and they all want to get their virgins in heaven or whatever. Like they're not a good org. We do not need to stand under no circumstances, blah, blah. But Cenk is not like a Twitter lefty. I'm positive that Cenk at no point was like, yeah, go Hamas or whatever. So the fact that he still has to do this performative, like, condemn Hamas bit, or like Piers Morgan is like, oh, well, I'm glad you at least acknowledge that Hamas is bad, shows like it's so disingenuous. It's like if Hamas did not exist, Israel and Zionists would construct one, which they did. Hamas didn't exist. And then Netanyahu worked to fund and promote Hamas and basically disempower their alternative. So, that we live in that world.
Yeah, I had to look it up because I didn't really know the history of Hamas, and that it's been around for over 30 years, and that it was like an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a name we used to hear a lot during like the U.S. wars in the Middle East, like Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff like that. We would hear like Muslim Brotherhood all the time, but I didn't really know the origin of that. So like it was Netanyahu that kind of prop them up.
Yeah,
while he was
Hamas. Sorry, I just want to say Hamas was they came about basically like in the 80s, and obviously Palestinian people don't have a lot of hope in a diplomatic solution with regards to their plight. So the idea of like radical Islamism as a solution, like would you rather die to an airstrike or would you rather die like fighting for your people? That kind of shit. Same thing happens everywhere. Mujahideen, Al Qaeda, like everywhere, right? And this is all like an open secret, right? Like it's none of this is like a conspiracy. He and his government spent decades like making Hamas the only option for the Palestinian people by cutting off diplomatic routes, literally arresting members of their opposition and classifying them as terrorist organizations. And he's explicitly said he wants there to be like a religious Islamist leadership in Palestine, because the main thing that Israel wants is to make sure that they don't get the denunciation of the international community, and it makes Israel look much better if they're fighting against crazy jihadists and not like, say, I don't know, a secular humanist organization, which is what was there originally, and they got replaced. You know,
I mean,
it's a very
that's
unfunny ramble.
No,
that
it's
makes
totally
sense.
Like so, and I'm glad you said it, because like out of all of the Middle Eastern countries and like the histories and how they developed and whatnot, Palestine and Hamas, everything that happens in Gaza is the one that I know the least amount, and there's a reason for that. Mostly because you can't really say anything about the issue without getting crucified by at least somebody. But I do think that's fascinating, because that's like a tried and true method that has happened in the Middle East many, many times. You know, the destabilization of Iran was specifically to combat, a more left-wing push and to destabilize the region into something that is going to be more amenable to a very specific conservative foreign affairs bent. And it's really strange. Like the enemy of peace really is people's fear of secularism, like you were saying, of liberal ideas, of tolerance, and that doesn't pay. It doesn't pay for people who are trying to stay in control.
Obviously, there is now a huge ongoing escalation in what has been, as you rightly say, a 56-year war, effectively, in varying degrees over that period.
I think a lot of these people...
That's where I think I'm struggling to see how ground invasion by Israel, with all that would entail, particularly mass deaths of Palestinian civilians, how that is going to do anything for any peaceful resolution to this. I think it will have the opposite effect.
Yes. So let's take it one at a time. First of all, as you rightly point out, on Young Turks, we covered the atrocious actions of Hamas right from the get-go, and we condemned it as fully as anyone can possibly condemn it. Because not only are they killing those poor, innocent Israelis that didn't do anything, those little babies and the grandmothers, it's disgusting what they did. But on top of that, they're ruining the Palestinian cause. They've burned the moral high ground to cinders.
And then on top
of that, they smear.
It's Cenk, of course it is.
Yeah, this is really dumb. It's so, first of all, like this environment where you have to spend 15 minutes performatively denouncing the group that everyone dislikes. Like, yeah, in the Western world, there's just so much love for Hamas. Like, yeah, this is definitely like an issue we have to, settle and really work the details out on. And for two, this like the moral high ground being burnt, which is bullshit. This would be like saying like, oh yeah, well, I used to be anti-slavery, but then there was this slave revolt and the revolting slaves like killed a bunch of innocents. So now it's like, like what the fuck does Hamas have to do with the moral question of the treatment of the Palestinian people? The answer is nothing, literally nothing. Totally disconnected issues. But the connection of them, the idea of like, oh, well, because Hamas is bad, that means that the treatment of the Palestinian people is more justified, is literally the definition of collective punishment, which is what Israel has been doing for decades, is doing now, and is literally a war crime. Like, that logic is a war crime in and of itself.
What would you figure would be the most efficient way to purge Hamas from, like, the Palestinian population?
Concede land. Say, hey, we f***ed up. Sorry for genociding you for decades. Haha, Lamau. Here's like land. We're giving you these territories here. We're like giving you this West Bank territory back, and like a bridge between that and Gaza, not a bridge, like a land bridge, whatever connection. And also we're going to give you resources as reparations so you can rebuild. Hamas becomes irrelevant the nanosecond the diplomatic option is available. Like, the Palestinian people experienced decades of genocide before Hamas even came to exist. So I feel like if the people there got even a taste of hope in a different direction, like, nobody would tolerate Hamas. They wouldn't, like, instantly it'd be like done,
Yeah, and so and if the Palestinians had like a level of sovereignty over themselves,
that'd be nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. Like, I mean, when people try and compare these two types of things, because again, like, I don't want to say too much because I'll be speaking out of ignorance. But when you do have those kind of conversations, I think that's a pretty valid point, because Palestinians haven't been like encroaching on Israeli lands, like that just hasn't happened, but the reverse has. The verse obviously has. Like, you can see it. It's been proven. You know, maybe draw them a border. Like, I don't know. Maybe it would work. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the power differential here is so massive, right? Like, it took Hamas everything they had to do this. Like, they killed, what, like 1,300 civilians? Which is a lot of people.
Against religious holy wars and theocracy.
True.
Yeah.
Like, that took everything they had. Everything Israel has is nuclear weapons. In terms of, like, proportionate retribution, like, Hamas has to do everything. Like, Hamas has to overextend massively to do what Israel did 3 times over in the week since the attack, in terms of, like, civilian casualties. So, like, the level of power, like, the ability to put this to an end, right? Hamas doesn't have that. Obviously, if they could, they would. Israel does. So, you know, it's really only one direction forward, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a deeply fun conversations, fun topic, you know? It's been a rough news week, or sorry, it's been a rough news cycle.
Yeah.
I say hi to my postman, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, hey, followed what's been going on in Gaza? It's like, give me out. I go to the convenience store. I'm like, hello, I would like 6 Reese's peanut butter cup duo bags. They're like, oh, that's great. You know who doesn't have food? I'm like, God damn it. Hell.
Yeah. No, I've almost completely disappeared from Shitter or whatever the fuck it's called now, purely because it's like there's nothing else happening. There's nothing else that people are talking about, and there's other shit that I'm actually interested in, but nobody's talking about it. It's all just this, and so yeah.
It's a very divisive topic.
Yeah,
I've noticed. Yeah.
I had to put my foot down earlier today. I was just doing a really casual little stream because City Skylines 2 came out. Very excited about that. And this guy started asking me about it. And I stopped the whole stream and I'm like, look, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm telling this to everybody. You only get one. You can ask me about it once. And if you ask me out again, I'm just banning you from the channel. I will not be baited into it. F that. That conversation. I'm done.
Do you think you could kind of like... No, you're like, I'm going to take a break from this. I'm done with this news cycle. I'm going to relax. I'm going to play some games. And then you just sort of fall into a trance while playing City Skyline 2 until you realize that you've built kind of a long city along the water. And then there's a small neighborhood, a rectangular neighborhood down by its corner that has really bad services. And you're like, yeah, just recreate.
I just randomly decide to shut off all sewage and electricity.
Yeah,
and
literally,
water
just
to
like,
the,
you're like, why did I do? God damn! Just keep accidentally recreating.
It's just my casual genocide simulator. It's fine.
You probably could do that, man. I gotta try City Skylines too. I wasn't that sold in the first one, mostly because they did something that I really didn't like. I know you can fix everything with mods, but I tend not to get mods. I remember them saying in development when they were building the first game, they initially had a realistic like city layout, like it would actually build out the way a normal city would, but they were doing it like American style, like everyone drives to work. And they realized if we did this realistic, 2/3 of the map would be parking lots, like always. Yeah. So they just made it. Every building now has invisible underground parking. And that bothered me because it's like, no, like that's a lesson. Like now that we're building the city, it's like, oh, maybe it's really dumb to have everyone carry a 2-ton metal brick with them every single place they go. So I'm really hoping walkable neighborhoods are more of a like a starter option. There's a lot of policies that you can do to counteract that. And in City Skylines 1, like I combated that a lot by always making my cities more walkable cities or really, really good mass transit. But in this one, there's actually even a tab just for parking. Like you can map out your parking and you can see like how much it's gonna be and try and work that down as much as possible. It's pretty interesting. I mean, the game is made for people with autism. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's absolutely fantastic. One of many autism game categories popping off. Autistic people feasting at the moment, I feel.
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't mean to interrupt the Israel.
No, that's fine.
Don't mind at all, man.
I didn't know much about autistic game categories, so I'm fascinated.
Well, I don't know. There's a Venn diagram between just getting into gaming e-girl stuff and autistic gaming, and that's The Sims. The Venn diagram where they meet is The Sims.
Yeah, The
because,
Sims
like,
is girl autism. That's girl-coded autism. Yeah.
it is. It's girl-coded autism. It's fantastic. Also, you can commit hate crimes in The Sims, so that's also there might be something there.
I'm a feminist. I've always said women can be autistic too.
Yeah, I've always said that women can commit hate crimes just as good as men, but they just don't. It's no
I'm always
ambition
saying
there.
this. Yeah, they don't because they're stupid and weak-willed, but they could.
I was just thinking that they haven't had the right girl boss to come along
listen,
and be like,
it's Mark Wahlberg,
ladies.
not Marcy Wahlberg. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I played
man.
The Sims once, and a bunch of them died, and I was like, I don't really like this.
That's the best part.
Is Minecraft in the autistic game category?
It's the category.
Okay. What about RuneScape? Is that another one?
That might be more in the peripheral, I feel.
Roblox.
Probably is.
How about that one?
I think Roblox is just everyone below 18 now.
Fine.
Okay.
It's not
Having
doing- I'm
fun
not
over
doing-
there? Yeah.
I'm not doing anything right now. It's totally fine.
I was playing some
good.
Minecraft. I was playing some Minecraft with YOLO Swag Studios and Beetle Moses earlier today, and
dope.
they discovered the End City for the first time. It's very funny.
Nice.
What was I saying? The main thing that gets me about autism games. Oh, not End City, the Dark City, the Deep Dark City, the Spooky City. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Not the End City. Yeah, sorry, I forgot. Not it. The main thing that gets me about the autism games. I like games that end. Okay, that's why I like Subnautica, because that game is a end. Terraria is the primo, because with Terraria you can build your big cities. There's a lot of like shit to do or whatever, but like you can definitively beat Terraria by beating the Moon Lord, and that feels like an ending. You can keep playing if you want, but like that feels like an ending. But beating the dragon in Minecraft, doesn't really feel like an ending. You can do that like in no time if you want. There's not much of a build up to it. It's just kind of there, you know?
That's true.
I like when games end. And City Skylines doesn't end. I want to see, are there like challenge maps? That's what I want. Challenge maps. You have like 2 years to get this many population and this balanced of a budget. Good luck.
Yeah.
That's my shit.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, absolutely. They have those.
I've
At least in
definitely
the
played
first
some
one.
never-ending games like
I need to buy
MMORPGs that never end. They just go on forever. Yeah.
I used to do like top tier rating in WoW. I was one of the best ranked mythic healers for a time during Legion. In my server, not in the world. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, no, I had a 9-year obsession with Star Wars Galaxies, and I still to this day play Guild Wars 2. So, yeah.
Guild Wars 2
help
is
it.
so good.
Oh, it's still good. It's still,
Still
oh
good.
my god. It's still, oh man, it gets better every single goddamn release, man. It's fantastic.
I played Final Fantasy 14 recently, all the way up to endgame, because people in chat wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. And like Final Fantasy 14 at no point was ever better than Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 at every level was better. You know, in Final Fantasy 14, you can't even like mass pull mobs. Like one of the best things that you can do in an MMO, like just objectively, just a fun thing to do, is know that you can fight 2 mobs safely. Gather 5 and panic sweat as you spam your AoEs and cooldowns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that in Final Fantasy 14. You can in Guild Wars 2. Hence, better game.
Ah, fair. That's fair. That's pretty fair. World versus World is pretty amazing in that game too. That was pretty fun for like casual PvP, just the big massive scale, being able to build siege engines and repair fortifications. It was fun, man. It was a lot like the old school Warhammer Online that I was obsessed with and did not last very long.
Back when I played, my computer lagged too much during the big World v World v World.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So wait. So I'm sorry. We were having fun for a second. Let's get back to Israel Palestine. Let's get back to that
All right,
interview.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Great pause game on Cenk here, by the way.
He's got a great
All
offense.
people of Muslim background like myself. And then it unleashes this bigotry of anti-Muslim bigotry throughout the world that I'm sick of. So screw Hamas and their barbarism, okay? Now, in terms of a proper reaction, yes, you need to get those hostages out. So now let's look at I'm going to suggest what to actually do. I'm going to be constructive. But first, let's look at the unconstructive solution that Israel had. dropping bombs on residential buildings. 50 ambulances have been hit. 10 out of 25 hospitals don't operate anymore. The incubators are about to run out of energy. There's 45 babies that might die today. The parents, I just read on CNN, are writing the names of the kids on their calves, on their legs, so that if they are killed in a bombing and they're mutilated, they could find their bodies. Imagine writing the name of your child.
Would he be doing this if he wasn't running for president? Would he normally go on a show like this and
Maybe?
He is sincerely pro-Palestinian people, so I think this is a real take he has. Maybe he's doing more of the like discussion circuit because of the presidency thing, but I believe him when he says this stuff. It is really one of the most things about the whole situation is that because Gaza is basically an open-air concentration camp, a lot of the people who are born there are stateless. They never get registered by the Israeli government as being a citizen. So, like, if stateless people are so, like, on the global stage, because if you don't have citizenship in any country, you don't even have a starting point for any documentation you could do. Anything from, like, opening a bank account, like, anything requires some kind of identification, and all of that starts from having like the
Here,
numbers given
take
to you
my
by the
monies.
state.
Vosh, have you ever had a big buff black guy hug?
Yeah.
Jeff and Ben will soon gonna hug you.
Oh,
But
God.
Until then, horses.
Yeah, so
a lot of
being
people who die,
stateless-
who die in Gaza, like they never even get recorded because there's literally nothing recording their lives. You know, sorry.
and they don't have the option to leave too, because they can't like get a passport or something. They'd have to be like a refugee to leave if they wanted to.
Yeah,
Well, they'd also have to have a place to go that would accept
Right.
them.
Israel
you know,
only
right.
permits a very small number of people to leave, and it's usually for work permits. There are also Palestinians who leave through Egypt, but Egypt tightly controls that border, and most of the people who go through there are like migrant workers. So in terms of like where could I go to get my name written down as like a citizen, very hard for a lot of them. It's back to the fun top. Yeah, back to the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is strange though too, because like in order for a lot of to be able to talk with a lot of people, maybe most people, is to really try and ask them to go to a place that's very uncomfortable, to imagine a type of life that they just can't even really conceive of. You know, that you're born, you immediately get a social security number, you've got a registry, you got a home, hopefully, you know, and like there's services that you have access to. But to be born as a non-person is something I don't think most people can even conceive of. I don't think most people have the imagination to even like think of it. You know, it's a bizarre concept for them.
And I think it's very morally difficult to grapple with, because if any country was doing this to people and they weren't a Western ally, it would be really easy. Like if it was Iran or China or whatever, then you ask an American about that, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's horrible, and they'd like wave little flags, you know.
Yeah, but I don't think they'd think of it. I don't think they would.
No,
really
I don't
try
think.
And, like,
I don't think they would really think with it. But I think that's the discomfort, because then it's like, oh, which country is doing this? Israel, a U.S. ally, and a country that puts a lot of work into massaging and like laundering its reputation overseas because they need to. Otherwise, like, Israel without U.S. backing, that's not the situation they want. So then it's like, well, okay, well, like they do bad things, but we're on their side. Like, how do I process that? And the immediate thought for a lot of people is to just deny, because it avoids the moral question. And then not only do they not try to engage with the experience of these stateless people, they just flat out like reject the premise and don't even, they just go to like, well, Israel has to defend itself or whatever. They don't even grapple with the thought, you know?
Yeah, well, my feelings don't care about your facts. So, you know, checkmate.
That's true. They don't. that is true. Yeah.
On their legs so that you could find them in the rubble after Israel or any government drops a bomb on them. And I need the West to understand something. Bombs kill people. And do you know how they kill people? They incinerate them alive.
Oh, there we go.
Dude,
Thank you, Simple Country.
Nothing but facts. Nothing but facts.
They incinerate them alive.
You pop off,
Or
King. Yeah, you spit that shit. You tell him.
Heads explode.
What
So
is he cooking? And he's like sizzling something up, and he opens up the pan lid, and it's that anime manga translation of people die when they are killed. You know. Sorry.
Yeah.
happened in Israel was a disaster and disgusting. But you have to be equally honest and equally outraged at the immorality of incinerating babies and grandmothers and aunts and uncles, which is what we're doing right now. America
Let me ask you,
cannot
Jake, let
keep
me ask you-
Yeah, I
sending
think he's being
aid
real.
for
Yeah, I could see some real emotion there. It didn't either that or he's like an amazing actor, but I have no reason to believe that.
Now, I think
Death and
the only
destruct-
reason he'd say something as retarded as bombs kill people is because he's being emotional too. I think it's like a sincere consequence of caring about the issue. I don't know. It's a really weird environment because on one hand, it's like the reaction counter-reaction thing, right? Because globally, the pro-Palestinian sentiment right now is higher than it ever has been in history. Like the amount of people who are just saying like flat out like, yeah, support the Palestinian people, way higher than it used to be. But at the same time, because of that, the blowback is also a lot higher too, where people like Piers Morgan will bring you on and be like, yeah, so do you condemn Hamas? And he's like speaking to a charred Palestinian corpse or something. You know, it's like the blowback is way worse. Did you see on Twitter there was that that billionaire like business magnate who was like, hey, can you dox these Harvard students who supported Palestinian people so that
yeah,
I
I
can
saw
blacklist them from my business? Holy shit.
Wow.
Some of those students were saying dumb shit like Hamas will save Palestinian people or whatever, but the majority of the people who were getting implicated there were just run-of-the-mill pro-Palestinian college students, and they were flat out pulling like McCarthyite shit on them.
That's wild. I mean, and the thing too is, it's a strange thing for me to consider too, because there's a lot of like that borderline McCarthyism that we've seen go on for a while, and it's just strange to see it happen with this. Like, Antifa, whatever, that kind of shit. You kind of expect that here, at least in the States, but then like this one, it's strange to me. It's weird.
It's like the biggest ideological proxy war in human history, unironically, because like it's the biggest
I agree
issue
with everything
globally.
Cenk is saying, but he has the demeanor of a wrestling promo.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
100%
Yeah.
he does. That's what we love him for. It's like it's the biggest proxy issue because like these countries or this country, depending on your perspective or whatever, is tiny. Like it's the size of Rhode Island or something, and the whole world cares. Everyone cares, and all the Western countries back Israel because America backs Israel, and America promotes Israel as like a local regional hegemon and backer of democracy. Plus, we use them as a military base, and we use them to force pressure on Iran because we want to put pressure on Iran because we don't want them to have nukes. We know Israel can attack Iran without as many consequences from the American voters, and then you have the anti-Western world supporting the Palestinian people, but then you also have real people who actually care about Palestinian people supporting Palestinian people. And it's like, holy shit. And all of this whole concentrated situation, just this tiny little span of land, it's like the world's eyes are on this one spot. I'm sorry. I keep thinking like, how will I make this geopolitics speech funny, and then I get to the end and I've realized I forgot to do a joke.
How much of that do you think has to do simply because that's like where Jesus supposedly lived?
Yeah, I mean,
thousands of years ago.
Yeah, the fact that this is happening in the Abrahamic Holy Land probably doesn't help very much
Yeah.
when it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the three largest religions on earth all kind of stem from. I mean, Islam a lot stems from like Saudi Arabia, but they had like Jerusalem is a holy city for like all three religions.
Yeah, and a lot of it is also like an ethnic displacement thing, because some of the most aggressively anti-Palestinian people on the internet are Indians, because Indians like Israel because they like the fact that Israel is killing and butchering Muslims, because the average Indian nationalist, the average Hindu nationalist, is more racist against Muslims than any human alive could imagine. Incomprehensible. Hey, like you would have to go back in time like 300 years in America to find any one human as racist as a modern average Hindu nationalist is against Muslims.
It's crazy.
Sorry.
Yeah, and like that's that's one of the things that's like a hidden kind of aggression sort of thing that a lot of people in the West just don't really pay that much attention to, but I'm very like acutely aware of. Is anytime I see anything in the news that says India and Pakistan, I'm like, shit.
literally
and then
just
it always
like
fizzles out.
double Hitler shit. Like it's literally just like the legions of Hitlers lined in a row screaming at each other. Two groups. It's like the Balkans, man. Two groups of people of the same skin tone who are more racist against each other than you could possibly imagine. You line up the the Indians and the Pakistanis, and they look the same, wearing different clothing, and they are doing major Hitler shit to each other. You know, like holy, it's like absurdist.
Yeah,
it's absolutely bananas. It's weird. Man, oh man, goddamn.
Enough of the occupation. End it today. End it today. It's monstrous. Okay, I'm going to
Jake, let me ask you this. Solution. I completely understand your passion and your anger. I completely get this. I, like you, want to see some resolution at the end of this horror that we're witnessing. How do you get rid of Hamas if you don't do it the way Israel are currently doing it? How do you actually eradicate what has become a nihilistic ISIS-style terror group who've quite deliberately, in my estimation, committed an outrage of such appalling scale that they knew that this would goad Israel into this kind of response? So why they did that, what is motivating it, who might be putting them up to it, who's helped them prepare for this, these are all questions we don't know the answers to yet. But it seems to me that Israel could, if it's not careful, be being lured into a massive trap here. And I hope that is not the case.
No,
but I'm curious, how
Israel of so much agency. Israel is a modern Western country with the military and political backing of the United States, and he's like, I fear Israel is being lured. Lured by what? What do you mean? And then he's like, we don't know who might have orchestrated it. Hamas did, and probably Hezbollah as well. That initial reporting that was done, where it was like, here's all the evidence that Iran actually planned it, and then it all turned out to be bullshit. Like just literally people just being like, what if we just started a war with Iran? What if we? Okay, I see tensions are rising in the Holy Land. Okay, what if we just lied and try to like redirect people's antagonism against Iran? You know, holy shit, it's so bad.
That's never happened before, right? No one's ever lied to direct our aggression against
another
the wrong country.
Yeah,
the wrong one.
Come on.
You know, there's a very real possibility that like either Israel or we, and probably Israel, but like we'd back them, does something with Iran, right? The Iranian nuclear program is putting down some real feet. Like I'm pretty sure Israel has like basically publicly said like, you're not getting those nukes. I don't care how many like SEAL Team 6 squads we have to send in. Like you are never getting nukes, basically, which is pretty.
So do they have ballistic capabilities? Can they shoot nukes a long distance?
I don't know.
Hamas funding will disappear overnight, and Israel will have to negotiate peace.
Sure.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
I don't know if Iran has ICBMs, but they definitely have the missile capacity necessary to strike Israel, which is all that really matters because Israel is also a nuclear country. There was because, you know, Trump pulled us out of the Iranian nuclear accords, right? So now Iran's like, well, f it. Like, if we can't trust you, we're just going to build our nukes. And I don't blame them. And they had a nuclear enrichment facility that was attacked by, I think they accused Israel of doing it, and Israel almost definitely did it. And they built another one that's deep beneath a mountain that can't really be bombed. Like, it's hundreds of feet below the ground. I like, it's nuke proof, basically. It wouldn't even, it's like the presidential bunker, you know? And if they do enough enrichment down there, eventually they're going to have their own nuclear weapons. And at that point, I feel like Israel is going to contrive an excuse for an invasion. It's going to be like the WMD thing, except this time there actually are WMDs. The question is whether or not they should have them. And I don't really want Iran to have WMDs, but I don't blame them for pursuing them.
I feel the same way about that. I
forgot a joke again. I'm feeling very self-conscious about this particular because I was talking to my mom on the phone earlier, and I did the same thing. How's your day going? Hey, want to talk about the genocide? And it's just
fantastic.
My mom didn't. God bless her.
You get rid of Hamas if you don't do it the way Israel is currently doing it, albeit with horrific collateral damage in the face of thousands of innocent Palestinians being caught up in the bombing.
Yeah. So let me give you a short-term answer, a long-term answer. And a lot of people are not going to like these, but these are realistic ways that you minimize civilian casualties. You do what America did with
This, except with geopolitics. Sorry.
6,000 residential buildings in the middle of Pakistan.
Oh my
We sent
fucking
in
God.
special forces. Is it more dangerous to the special
Wait,
forces?
did
Of course. That's
Did you guys hear me say the word geopolitics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I meant to mute. Holy shit! I can't be streaming right now. Oh my God! I need to explain this to you. Okay. I brought up the image of Patchy the pirate from SpongeBob saying, "That's it. That was the meme. That was just men having gay sex." And I was going to show that to my chat, and I was going to say this, but with geopolitics. So I thought, okay, I don't need to interrupt everyone for this. I will mute myself on Skype and say it to chat. So then, for some unfathomable reason, I muted my desktop, thus cutting off Cenk, not my mic, just said it, and none
Israel
of it made
could not
sense.
possibly
And I'm
hope
still
to invade massive Iran.
talking about
Even
it.
the USA trying to invade a large mountainous nation like Iran, let alone occupy it, would very probably fail.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't really think we could, like, conquer Iran. That'd be a really rough one. Yeah.
the point of special forces. Try to find the hostages. Does it look like Israel's trying to find the hostages? If I have a family member that's a hostage, I'm disgusted by what Netanyahu's doing now. How do you know they're not in the buildings you're dropping bombs on? How do you know they're not in the tunnels you're dropping bombs on? How do you know they're not in the hospitals you're dropping bombs on? So if you want the hostages rescued, every rational human being can agree this is not the way to do it. This is the way to do death and destruction for the sake of death and destruction. It's collective punishment. It's genocide against Palestinians, and the world has to speak out. So my way is not pleasant either. It involves a lot of folks dying on both sides. I understand that. Those are super hard choices.
I can see him. Yeah, I can see his eyes welling up here. So yeah, he is like he is actually emotional about this.
I think
But
that
go
Cenk
find-
is generally a fairly sincere person. I think that like the presidential run, I feel is a grift, and he does a lot of shit that I think is kind of stupid and insane. But one of the big traits about him that I've noticed that I think is real, I don't think it's fake, is this guy is like ride or die loyal. Like Anna Kasparian had a bad day and started posting some retarded shit on Twitter, and this motherfucker was out here in the trenches, like in day one, just right down there. He's like, "Hello, Queen. Starting fights today, are we? I'll join you." And he just jumps down into the fucking Twitter trenches and gets right to it. And this is obviously extremely annoying behavior, but I do kind of respect it. And I think that, like, if there's one thing I can't criticize him on, it's sincerity and passion, because he seems to have those in spades.
Hamas, go find the hostages, go rescue them instead of wantingly, indiscriminately killing after killing. And let's be honest, when you drop a bomb and a kid's head explodes and a grandmother is incinerated, that is terrorism.
The thing about that donation alert is that every donation that has a 2 at the end, so like there's one that's $2 that does that, and it does it for 5 seconds. And then there's one that's $12 and it does it for 10 seconds. There's one that's $22 and it does it for 30 seconds, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yes. So if someone gives like $102 exactly, it'll do it for like a full minute without stopping. It's pretty crazy.
That's a good minute of income right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is killing 3 times as many civilians as Hamas is terrorism. And it is the same if it is done by a government. Send in as many special forces you got. We should send in whatever you got to actually do the job at hand, instead of what Netanyahu is doing, which is to kill these people, to send a message. And think about how unrealistic that is. And think about why his method has a 0% chance of working. How are the Palestinians supposed to rise up against Hamas? How would they prove they're against Hamas? Hamas ended all elections. Hamas ended democracy. So how are the Palestinians supposed to cry uncle? They're already crying uncle, but it's never enough for the bloodthirsty Netanyahu. No, more death of Palestinians, more babies killed. That's what his answer is. And it's this.
He really is our Alex Jones in terms of rhetoric, and that's really good, you know? Frankly, I just think this should be the entire discourse. Like, I think Piers Morgan should just sit there until he dies, and Cenk should just talk forever. I think that would be the best possible world with regards to this interview. You know?
Doesn't he also think the Armenian genocide was a conspiracy theory?
Does he actually? I've never actually investigated that claim. I don't know if that's actually
heard
true.
That said, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know either. But that would make him kind of an Alex Jones because he's like he's into conspiracy theories. I don't know.
Of America, I'm running for president here. There's no way in the world I would allow this. Sending $105 billion. And it doesn't even go to Israel, Ukraine, or Taiwan. It goes to the defense contractors that bribe these greedy American politicians and then get most of that money. And so the long-term answer is 1967 borders and the biggest walls you've ever seen in your entire life. And no one's allowed to cross to either side. But the Palestinians get their state. It is unconscionable for them not to get their state. And if you're a moral person, of course you believe that the Palestinians are not the only people in the world that cannot govern themselves. If you say that, you are being, by definition, bigoted and a racist. We have to have two-state solution immediately. If 56 years of occupation and brutalizing these people is not enough, is 57 years going to be enough? Is 156 years going to be enough? I'm asking Israel, not out of hate, out of love. So many of my friends that I grew up with are Jewish. This is not good for them.
I have Jewish friends.
I do as well. I grew up in Beverly Hills. Okay, I got lots of Jewish friends. I will say,
ask Bosch about his TYT.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, TYT. It's just an emote that I have. We're silly. I actually don't mind the $105 billion aid package for national security that Biden has put forward, because it's like barely any of it is for Israel. I think something like 60 billion of it is for Ukraine. It's very funny to me to be like this, Israel is under attack. We need to get this funding package out right away. And then you look inside the funding package and it's, hold on, I'm looking right here. 61.4 billion in aid for Ukraine. And then there's 10 billion in humanitarian assistance. Then 7.4 billion for Taiwan. Then 13.6 billion for the U.S.-Mexico border, and then it's like, yeah, also 14.3 billion in aid for Israel. It's just very funny how it's like,
let's just pop off the China-Taiwan thing now. Why not just make it 3 going on at the same time?
That's true. We should do that. I agree. Well, it's the ball's really in China's court. Taiwan's not going to invade China. Okay. What's happening is that China's going to keep building those artificial islands until the South China Sea, like Chinese control of the sea, extends around the entirety of Taiwan. Like they're going to be surrounded, and then a Taiwanese shipping freighter is going to cross into the bubble around them, and World War III will begin. I'm ready.
Yeah. These will be the 3 theaters of war for World War III.
Yeah, it's classic. We have the Eastern Front again, and we have the Pacific Theater again. Okay, we need another Battle of Midway. Maybe this time it'll be like the Battle of W Way or the Battle of Giat Way. We're bringing it back.
Yeah,
we're bringing it back.
Let's
only the classics, baby. Only the classics.
This is not good for anybody. Please look into your hearts, look and be the moral people that I know you can be. I've been to
soon to be mainland Taiwan, formerly China.
True.
Oh, I don't think that's gonna work.
If you listen to Chinese propaganda, that's what's gonna happen. There's you like the State Department people, their State Department, whatever, and it's like Taiwan has been amassing non-defensive weapons on their island, and then you look at a map, and China is the size of planet Earth, and Taiwan is a tiny island right off their coast.
And that's like,
oh yeah.
Anytime an American politician visits Taiwan, China freaks out.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi visited, and China was like literally backed off of there was a deal that they were negotiating or something. There was something they did afterwards. They got really upsetty spaghetti over that. Over Nancy Pelosi. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can't even call themselves Taiwan at the Olympics. They have to call themselves Chinese Taipei.
Yeah, it's so fucked.
Yeah. Or China will get mad. That's
they'll
only
boycott the Olympics, yeah.
Passover dinners where you pray for your oppressors. Now, it breaks my heart, but I got to tell you, you got to pray for those you are oppressing. And to say that you are not oppressing the Palestinians after brutalizing them for 56 long years, you're kidding yourself. And as a friend and an ally, I'm trying to get you to wake up and snap out of this trance. You cannot keep doing this. It is ruining your moral fiber.
Cenk Uygur, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sorry it was your
Is
first
it
appearance in this
that China has one time zone? Russia has like 4 time zones over the same longitude. The sun rises 4+ hours later in eastern China than it does in western.
Yeah, it's like the one China thing, right? China's super huge. China is so big and to so many people that they really have to promote the idea of there being one China, in spite of the fact that China is like, in terms of its land area and how many ethnicities there are in it, China is really more of like an empire that has the label nation slapped on top of it. You know what I mean?
I didn't realize they only had one time zone.
Yeah, no,
that's insane.
They have one official time zone, and then most areas in China also unofficially use a local time zone. But officially, yeah, it's just the one, because one China, the sun rises on all of China at once.
It's
crazy.
UCT, United China time.
Yeah, wait, hold on. World time zones. It's actually crazy when you look at it from the map. You can see just how like it's not just. Yeah, here we go. Sorry, well, I'm showing my own chat, I guess, but like,
Yeah. I can
see
pull it up.
just
right
how
there.
insane it is. Yeah.
What the dude? That's wild.
When was that done?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. When was? I bet you this was Mao. Mao, China time
Probably.
founded.
You can blame Mao for so much shit.
I'm pretty
too.
sure
Jesus
he's still
Christ.
on their money.
Yep,
I've seen-
1949. After the Chinese Civil War, the Central People's Government abolished the 5 time zones and announced the use of a single time zone named Beijing time. Wait, 1949. Was Mao still... Wait, hold on. Yeah, 1949. Wait, he did this, like, right away? Like,
Wow.
Wait, he proclaimed victory on October 1st, 1949. And then I guess, like, day 1, proclaimed victory. Day 2, one China time. Like...
On day 1, I will make one time zone. Could you imagine a presidential candidate saying that?
Yeah, he's like God. Like on the first day, Mao created like the one China time zone, so all the sun rises on all of China at once. Yeah, kind of a Chad move, to be honest.
What time is it? It's Chinatown.
It's Chinatown. It's Chinatown. Yeah, which means this probably exacerbates like Chinese Indian tension significantly, because, you know, like cultural differences exacerbate across borders. You have like a Chinese guy who's standing in the sunlight. It's like midday, and right across from him is the Indian border, and it's nighttime. The sun has fallen over there. It's like creating more of a kind of like cognitive break between the two neighboring nations.
I couldn't even imagine.
Speaking of like China situations, when who was it that was speaking out of turn, kind of like praising the Chinese occupation of Tibet recently?
Hassan.
Was that Hassan? God damn it! God damn it! That one was really frustrating me though, because like it's one of those situations where somebody is kind of right, but for all the wrong reasons, and don't know what they're talking about. It's just absolutely bananas. That one drove me crazy.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I see Chesh in our chat saying get rid of daylight savings. I don't want to get rid of it. I want to make it permanent. I want permanent daylight time.
Yeah.
Offer
Just
Bosch
stick
some
to it.
Reese, pineapple, banana, chocolate meat. That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's
I
what's
love
up.
Reese's. Yeah, it was like the full on like white burden type rhetoric too, where it was like, oh yeah, you know, China may have annexed and like conquered Tibet, but they were a backwards people with uncivilized practices. So actually China was showing them, like, unironically, that was the argument. So
Yeah, that's, you can't really make that argument out of people that are occupied. It doesn't matter. Like, and that's the kind of thing that I had a little bit of an argument with a couple of people about it too, because they just hate anything that has to do with Hassan, which I get. You know, I understand. I don't really have any strong feelings about him one way or the other.
He's
but
tall.
like I do have that feeling about him. He's very tall.
there we go. Now you have one feeling about him. Yeah.
I have one feeling about Hassan. But yeah, no, I mean, like he wasn't wrong that, like, you know, Tibet back in the day was a pretty terrible place, because it was, totally was. But like, you can't just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna say that and that's just fine, you know, about, you know, literally an occupied people. That doesn't make any sense. And what's the point? Like, I don't know. It drove me crazy.
I was wondering when the current Dalai Lama dies and they decide who the new one is, that person's going to have to be born in Tibet, right? For that to even happen. And then what do they have to do? Like smuggle them out of the country? Because isn't the current Dalai Lama like in exile right now?
Yeah, he's still in exile. I think China has really given up on giving that much of a shit about it, though. I don't
Really,
really
though?
think.
Okay.
Yeah,
You think,
I don't think that's really a thing anybody gives that much of a shit about.
It's
you
well,
think they don't?
it's manufactured because the only reason that we as Westerners know about the Dalai Lama is because there was a concerted effort by anti-Chinese Westerners to frame the Dalai Lama as some kind of like, glorious, enlightened like victim of Chinese oppression. In reality,
Thanks, Richard Gere.
yeah, the Dalai Lama is just another weird, creepy religious leader with very little international support compared to the religions that we actually care about. Like, like generally speaking. So, yeah, I think a lot of the knowledge of the Dalai Lama is super manufactured. I remember growing up, I remember hearing about the Dalai Lama as though he was like the Pope. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, like, wait, hold on. Like, the only reason that we know about this guy is in the context of, like, anti-Chinese shit. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
There is something to be said for, like, performative celebrity, bullshit, Like, I won't even... I won't ascribe like directly anti-Chinese sentiment necessarily to it. I'm sure there's a lot to it that's there. But don't ever underestimate the ability for celebrities to find some niche little thing to make them feel very important about themselves. It's just a tried and true rule of the world.
Yeah. Did we watch the entirety of the clip with Cenk? I actually think he did quite well there.
Pretty much, yeah.
He did look like he was going to shit his pants half the time, but other than that, he did pretty good.
He bowled over Piers Morgan entirely. I unironically think Hassan could learn some lessons from this because Hassan, despite being 6'4", comes across kind of conciliatory. Like he'll allow himself to be interrupted and the like, whereas Cenk just blasts the doors down.
Yeah, he bulldozes.
Yeah.
It's impressive, when he gets going. It's kind of obnoxious as shit, but like if he's right, he's right,
I mean, anything to keep Piers Morgan from like listening for 2 minutes and then going like, "Oh, well, that's all well and good, but do you condemn him?" So anything's better than that.